you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they want to do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shit.
How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, as we get closer to the holidays, I wanted to get in one more show, and then we may be on hiatus until the holidays pass, but we'll see. Usually I may change my mind on that, but make a good effort to give everybody some time off. But we have a great idea for a topic. I believe this topic comes from Andy. The topic is, what do we feel it takes to be a correctional officer? Now, guys, here's the unique thing. We're going to come at you with different perspectives. Frontline leader, administration, even from the civilian side, what we feel, it takes, what we expect from someone who wants to be a correctional officer. So let's introduce our lovely panel today. Russ Hamilton. Hey, Russ, how's everything going? How's Keepers of Chaos?
Keepers of Chaos is going fantastic, Anthony. We're still coming up on that 5,000 member mark. Everyone that's joining is enthused to be there. And I think that, overall, it's just very gratifying to have people, really thank you for providing a forum that really caters to those that really view this as a profession and, really want to find a way to get the knowledge, training, history, and content that we provide.
Yeah, your group's just amazing. I love the partnership in that group. I love seeing the seniors really cultivating the new boots and just seeing the community grow. I'm proud to be a part of it. And again, I'm a big fan of the mentorship. Guys, if you get a chance, cross over. If you're on Facebook, definitely check out Keepers of Chaos. If you're not on Facebook, I know this may sound crazy, but it's definitely a good reason to join Facebook. The community is just such a beautiful community. Maybe one day we'll take it outside of Facebook and we'll meet somewhere and have just a Keepers of Chaos event. Love to see the hotel that's willing to hold that one. Yeah, sorry. Hey, Keepers of Chaos is coming. Who? What? Why? Hey, Connie, author. Hey, how's everything going, Connie? How's the book going? How's the podcast?
So everything's good. The podcast is on pause. I stopped for the season, so we'll be starting back in the new year. The book is going very well. I think I'm almost at 300 copies. And, it's just really been quite a journey and I'm enjoying it all. I think it's great being a resource, which is really what I set out to be, that people are just hitting me up and asking questions. It'll be interesting to see how many people I can pull into our correctional world on the civilian side. Because people are like, really? So you're in corrections? Like, you just don't seem like you would be in corrections. Like, what's that supposed to mean? Right? Like, I don't know if they're expecting me to be tougher or harsher or whatever that expectation is, but just knowing that you can come in and provide your service as a civilian and that you're welcomed is really a good thing. So it's definitely been great.
And by the way, your book's phenomenal. I get a chance to, obviously being friends on Facebook, you promote the testimonials. So I definitely see the lives that you're impacting every day. And I think that was the reason why you wrote the book. So it must be great to see all that come into fruition. That's pretty amazing, Connie. Andy, I don't even say your last name anymore. You do it.
All right.
Hey, Andy, obviously, thanks for coming on. In the future, Andy's got some big things in the work. Can't discuss it too much right now, but just wanted to let people know Andy's got something coming. He's pioneering something very big. I'm looking forward to it. And when he's ready to share it, he's going to allow this platform here to, announce this beautiful idea he has, which I believe the Tier Talk family is going to be a part of. So be ready, guys. It's going to be a pretty good movement we got going on here. But Andy, how's life going? How you doing?
Life's going great, Anthony. Appreciate it. Hey, I'm Andy. Glad to be back on Tier Talk. Glad to be a part of this panel. It's always interesting, and I know that the viewers at Tier Talk feel the same way, but every time I'm on with Anthony, Connie, Russ, whoever it may be, I always learn something new from everybody. And, I know people now that have subscribed to Tier Talk and they feel the same way. So thanks for having me back. It's great. Can't wait for Connie's book. Can't wait for Anthony's book. And I'm always looking at Keepers of Chaos for new information about the corrections community. So glad.
You know what, Andy, for all those kind words, I have to say your last name. Andrew Abney-Brotz.
Bam. Got it.
Oh, God. All right. So, hey, guys, real quick, as you know, I have a book coming out very shortly. We're in the final steps. It's called Inmate Manipulation Decoded. Very close. A couple of fix-ups in the books, but I will tell you, I love the partnership, Geo. If you guys are ever interested in writing a book, reach out to me. I'll tell you how to reach out to Geo. It's it's definitely a worthy investment. Trust and believe, because in the end of the day, it's not so much about the book, but maybe what you could provide after, like going on site, teaching courses, or, you know, whatever it is that you're trying to get across. But I really feel that what we put together here could be very impactful. And obviously, Russ will have his book out. He's next. And again, guys, it's just a tremendous journey, especially the other day when I got it in the mail and I held it. I just think there's no greater achievement, obviously, next to my family, of course. My wife may watch this. So Mia, you know, of course, holding you. And then there's the other kid, you know, held her a little bit. Sienna, yeah, held her for a bit. And, you know, and yeah, love my family. All right. So now, guys, if you haven't, the show Tear Talks to you, brave men and women that work in correction. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. We're going to go to our sponsor. We come back. We're going to discuss what we feel it takes to, you know, be a correctional officer. Stand by.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
All right, guys, then we're back. So I'm going to hit up something first because it's coming closer to the holidays, obviously. So when someone asks me, hey, Gange, what does it take to be a correctional officer? The first thing I'm thinking about right now is sacrifice. Around the holidays, these brave men and women that are working behind the wall, they're sacrificing time with their families to make it safe for us so we can spend time with our families. So I will say one thing right now, sacrifice, obviously partnered with commitment. But Russ, when I say it takes sacrifice to be a correctional officer, what does that mean to you?
Well, yeah, Anthony, you know, one of the things, you know, we're not on that schedule that the rest of the world adheres to. So, you know, we tend to sometimes miss out on some things. And also when we're trying to, you know, mesh our schedules and stuff around to try and do things with our family, a lot of times those gears, you know, they just spin off of each other. And it can be very frustrating, especially when you're younger. Just today, one of the smaller facilities that I worked at as a senior correctional officer, I remembered that, you know, they were going to be stuck there over the holidays. They were going to, you know, having to be celebrate Christmas inside the facility. So, you know what, my mom made some pies and I ran over there to them just to, you know, try and spread a little bit of cheer, you know, because guess what? This year, you know, I'm not stuck in a prison or a juvenile facility. I'm getting ready to celebrate with my family. I've got, you know, my boys coming down and stuff. So I feel lucky in that respect that I don't have those sacrifices in front of me anymore. But I look back and I remember those who did. And so the hours that you spend, the days you don't have off, it adds up, and it can be a daunting thing to face during a career.
Yeah, and I will tell you something, guys. If you're getting ready to enter this profession, you know, and you want to have that family, your family needs to know that there's a good chance that you won't touch weekends or holidays for many years. Sometimes you may get lucky, you may get a holiday, or, you know, maybe some people do get lucky and get a piece of that weekend early in their career because maybe it's a bid that nobody wants. But in the end, you have to prepare yourself for that when you enter this profession, one of the things that you're going to give up is some of that family time, and your family, hopefully they understand that, because that's when you make these sacrifices during this time of the year. A lot of us, believe it or not, some of us, we feel guilty that we're not with our families because we know our families want us to be next to them. So what helps us go through this is when our family supports it. Not saying that they agree with it, but they understand why and they support it. So if you're a family member watching this, know for a fact the support that you give your loved one when they're working behind the wall carries a lot of weight and keeps them focused onto what they have to do, because you want them focused on the job and not so much getting home worried about, you know, what you're going to say to them because they had to work a holiday, or worse, they got mandated on a holiday. Hey, Connie, I mean, obviously being in the medical side as well, you know what it's like to also kind of work those crazy hours. I said sacrifice, but for some reason I also mentioned commitment. Is that run parallel?
So I think they absolutely run parallel, because, you know, you have the opportunity to be that person that calls out, right? And that's not the person you want to be. And so when I think of those who continue to go in, who it's not even just a sacrifice, but they're committed to the job. I mean, there are many folks on the medical side of the house that oftentimes before they leave, they want to make sure there's continuity of care. They're making sure they're passing on information so that the next, shift knows exactly what's going on, and they forget something. I've had staff call into the facility to let people know that this is what they were doing prior to leaving. So I think it's not so much just, you make the sacrifice to be there. You be there for your shift. You be there to cover, even through the holidays, through your kids' recitals, all the things that you do miss because you are there. And the fact that, when there's a call out, right? Like you're working a double, and there's no wiggle room. If there's no one to cover, you are working that double. And many times they do it with, I don't want to say a smile on their face, because, people do want to go home. But at the end of the day, they stay and they still continue to give 100%. And so for those folks, I'm so appreciative, because those are the ones that continue day in and day out to show up, and they are committed to give their 110%.
Yeah, Andy, you got 18 years at the beginning of your career, or maybe even now as higher level management. I mean, do you find yourself or found yourself at the very beginning missing out on those special family days?
Absolutely. And I really feel for the line staff, and it's not just on custody side, like Connie said, the medical field and corrections, dietary, the clerks that work the front of the house, answering the phones every single day for you. It really takes a toll, and I remember the times where, working 12-hour shifts on night shift, rolling into Christmas, missing that Thanksgiving dinner or whatever the case may be. So, I just want to say thank you to all the line staff on the front lines, that are guarding our houses while we are going through the holidays, especially 2020, man. It's been crazy trying to deal with COVID and everything else. And, we're exhausted. Everyone's exhausted, short-staffed, underpaid, most of us. So yes, it definitely takes a toll, and it definitely takes a really strong person to stay committed enough to be in the corrections field.
Now, I started off with sacrifice, and which kind of crossed into commitment, and even touch on dedication as well, because I would like to think that dedication and commitment is what leads to the sacrifice, if that makes any sense. If I'm not dedicated or committed, I'm not going to make the sacrifice. But Russ, in your 27 or 29 years, I mean, technically now, what's one good quality that you got to have to be a correctional officer? You're muted, Russ.
It's closely related to those others that you mentioned, but just, sheer determination of will to be able to not just function in that environment, but to be able to excel in it. That's one of the things that really makes the difference between being able to, do well in this career, and to be able to have it where, you're not that person that's dreading going in for every shift. You're determined to go in there, to learn the job, to do it well, and to be able to, rise to each and every challenge. And so that's the thing that I really think is the difference between, the officer who's having a really tough time and a hard time and doesn't like the job, the negative naysayers, if you will, and those that are able to get beyond that. It's just that determination to be able to, to stick with it until you get to a point where you become master of it, and that you actually look forward to going into that shift every single day.
When the moment you said determination or will, I went right back to think of the reasons why I joined this profession. Again, it's the why. And I read a lot of Simon Sinek, Start With Why. I think Connie's also familiar with his work. I don't know if Russ and Andy got a chance. Very, very interesting reading. But he talks about why and what motivates you. And basically the why is not external. It's something that you believe in and that you can apply. Now, for me, when I entered corrections, I believe that there's a good that I provide. Now, if the good could be protecting the public, or the good could be how I serve my community behind the wall. But having said that, it's a why that motivates me through the toughest of times, because this profession is going to have some tough times. So if you don't have that why, if you don't have that internal justification, it'll make you waver on those times where you definitely need something strong to hold on to. So I agree with Russ. And if I could just add a little on that, Russ, I think the determination and will comes a true understanding of why you do the job, which goes beyond the amount of money. This is not about how much you're getting paid. It's not about any external incentive. It's just about what you feel that you can give to the community in large, technically, but also to the work you're doing behind the wall, because that is your community as well. But when he said determination and will, Connie, what's your thoughts on that? Like, what does that mean to you? To, like, if you basically, Connie, in regards to correctional officers, determination and will, how do they find that? How do they know they have it?
I mean, I think it's when you're tested, right? Like when you come on the job and you're starting to be faced with these very tough situations, like that's when you know that you have that thing inside that allows you to push past the wall, that point where you just like, you kind of feel you want to give up, but there's something in you that says, no, you got this, whatever that situation is. I mean, you see officers after a code, right, that are exhausted, but they're still ready and willing and able to do what they need to do in order to complete their shift, right? And I think those are the things that happen every day that we don't really talk much about. We don't acknowledge it when we should, because there's something else inside that has allowed them to push past that breaking point, that wall where you kind of just want to take a breather or just stop. And I see it all the time.
You hit hard on a very good point where, it is the tough times. And the tough times is where that determination and will, you're going to be able to see, because those are the people that jump and say, give me the ball, coach. Give me the ball. Like, I'm not hiding during the tough times. So if you want to discover if you have determination and will, and again, to complement what Connie just said, is you'll know the moment there's some tough times and if you want the ball. Because if you're doing whatever you can to not take the ball, then this profession is definitely not for you. Because every time we've had those codes and we have those tough moments, like Connie and Russ said, every one of those people are going to grab the ball and, where do you want me, coach? Where do you want me to go? I know we're beaten. I know we're bruised, but where do you want me to go? And when you find that one person who, hey, where's such and such? I don't know. All right. He doesn't have determination, doesn't have the will. Profession's not for them. What's your thoughts on that, Annie, about determination and will and kind of rising up during those tough times?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's key, because I was just kind of sitting here thinking, I think after, you've been on the job for a while, maybe a week or so, and you've had that first day of, the inmates calling you everything in the book, and, time is just dragged by on the shift. And then you realize at the end of the shift, like, wow, I really got my tail handed to me, but I love it. So I'm going to come back. And I think those are the people that you need to embrace and make sure that they're comfortable with where they are. Hey, do you need anything? Let's do more training. And I think the people that are there for just a paycheck are there for the wrong reasons, and they're going to get some people hurt. So definitely determination and will, especially in the field we're in. I can't really think of anywhere else that we can go in every single day and do the things that we do. It's very it's an interesting industry, to say the least. But I like to tell people, just, if you get frustrated because we're short staffed, if you're tired, hey, you've been here 5 years. So take a step back, realize what it was that you loved about the job that you hired in, and that you're still here. So determination to come back every single day and do the stuff we do is definitely key.
I love that, Andy, because let's be honest, man. Corrections is a people business, from all levels, and sometimes you have to find that motivation within yourself through the roughest of times, which means that I'm going to tell you something, man, real quick, just to kind of run what you guys are saying. It's always easier to find an excuse why not to do it. That's the easy part. What the hard part is finding the reasons to stay, finding the reasons to battle through. And that's where it comes for you, looking inside, like you guys said, and just, why am I in this profession? And if you come into this profession for the right reasons, that should never change. And that will hold you through. And then when you get through your 25 years or however long when you retire, you did what needed to be done. So you had value in your life. And there could be value here when working behind the wall, if you give it the effort and you stop looking for excuses as to why you can't find the value. Because I find value every day, but it's hard. It's a struggle, but I find it. And I'm a person that's optimistic. Like, I know some people are positive, and sometimes for me, positive is like, okay, well, sometimes you just can't be positive. I'm not going to lie and try to create something positive when it's not, but I do tell people there's always a chance for hope, and I always cling on to that light. So no matter how tough times are, I know there's going to be a light, and I know there's going to be some level of value at the other end. Even through the roughest of times, you're going to learn something. But I love it so far, guys. Dedication, commitment, sacrifice, determination, will. Connie, what do you got? Came out of nowhere with that, Connie, but you should expect
I know.
it.
For me,
Get
it's
ready.
bravery. I think that we don't focus so much on like the dangers that lie behind the wall. And so, I think that when officers and civilians come in and they have that sense of, I'm here to do a job, and they understand sort of the underlying or the very present violence that we work amongst all day long, every day, at any given moment, something could jump off. And I think that it takes a certain amount of bravery to be in that place and in that space, whether it's the mental space of knowing that this could happen or something could go down at any point in time, the physical bravery, like, so you never know when you're going to go toe to toe with someone. I mean, as a civilian, I hope I never have to do it, but like, thankfully I've gone through training, right? And I've never had to use it because officers are literally always there. And I think it's that bravery that I don't take for granted, that if an officer hears someone raising their voice at me, that they come to make sure that I'm okay. Like that they're very present and very aware of what's going on around in the facility, so that if you do hear like chairs moving or something that's just not normal for a regular interaction, it's the bravery to just come and face whatever that unknown situation head on.
And I'm going to tell you something, guys. Me and Russ covered this a while back. I think Connie was also involved in this dialogue where we talked about, is it okay to be afraid in corrections? And fear can motivate as long as it doesn't freeze. I mean, you have, in order to be brave, you have to act on what's afraid, but as long as it doesn't freeze you. And bravery comes from obviously the physical threat, but also the choices that we have to make. Are you brave enough to make choices? We're going to have to make choices where we don't always know what the outcome is going to be. So are you willing to step up and take that risk? Because at the end of the day, we as correction professionals, we want people that make choices that don't freeze. Freezing and being hesitant is literally the worst threat that you could face inside a correctional facility. So you got to motivate yourself to make those choices. But I think brave is definitely one of the biggest components it takes, because obviously brave is, do you have the heart? And the inmates have to see it. And again, that's okay if you're nervous, but at the end of the day, what does the nerves do? Are they making you run away, or are they pushing you towards it? I mean, Andy, obviously when people say you have heart to work in this profession, I mean, obviously they're talking about bravery, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It like I said, it takes a lot to go into the environment we do and enforce rules, regardless if you're on the civilian side or if you're on the custody side of the house. Walking into a housing unit of 50 to 100 inmates and saying, hey, this is what you're going to do. These are the rules. That takes some bravery, especially if you're not used to it. One of the things that I was told day one by my FTO was, do not take anything personally that these inmates are going to say to you, because they will call you everything in the book. And 18 years, they're still calling me new stuff. So definitely see that. And bravery is definitely key to survival in this industry.
I know Russ, one of the bravest people. Russ will walk into a yard surrounded by inmates, and he's going to grab that contraband. he's going to do what he can to make sure the facility's safe, secured. I mean, Russ defined his career by heart, and Russ also expects that the people next to him have heart as well. So, Russ, obviously bravery. Connie hit it on the head for you, right?
Well, yeah, it's an absolute essential function that we have to go in there and deal with situations that other people are incapable of. Otherwise, everyone could be a correctional officer. And that's certainly not the way it is. And so, to go along with the courage and the bravery that correctional officers display every day, we also have to have that sense. We have to have that combat mindset where we can go about this, in a strategic fashion so that our strategy can dictate what our tactics are, so that our tactics can carry us through and be able to have, hopefully an optimal outcome. You don't always get an optimal outcome, but most of the time you should be acting on, those smarts that you get from the experiences that you gain. And you go on to be that person who, when you arrive on that scene, you're the one in charge, until maybe, brass or someone shows up, but you get there, you take charge, you know what to do. And, you turn that situation that's gone to complete shit into something that's manageable and then eventually safe. And these are the kind of people that are, throughout all of corrections. You start out at a point where maybe you are hesitant, maybe you are a little bit afraid to act, but eventually, through that exposure to all of those situations and through your training and through your ability to do that after action review and to become better and to refine yourself, you become someone who's, a force to be reckoned with. You become formidable, to the inmates, to the inmate population. And, it just speaks so highly of the profession that we have so many people that are capable of doing that after, just, 2 or 3 years on the job. And then you get those individuals, who have been around forever, and those individuals are able to do even more. And, there's so many great people in this profession that they just keep stoking the fires year after year after year, refining themselves, refining their techniques, developing better strategies, better tactics. It's an honor to have worked with these people. And that's one of the reasons why, I love it to this day. I retired a few years ago, but I'm still kind of involved on the fringes, and I do what I do with Keepers of Chaos. I do what I do with Tier Talk. And, I'm just happy as I can be to still, have input into not wasting all of this experience and knowledge that I've gained through, sweat, tears, and blood over the years.
Yeah, Andy, I think you had a thought, Andy?
I did. I heard Russ talking about tactics and, the bravery about being in the yard. Something also to remember for somebody who's wanting to get into corrections or is very new to corrections and might not know, our side of the house is definitely a lot different than, say, the road officer part of law enforcement on the other side. You call for backup on the road, you might be 5 to 10 minutes out for somebody coming to your assistance. In the house, in jail or prison, you call for backup because you got something going down. It's seconds that somebody's there. And just know that your shift have your back, and you've got some highly trained people coming behind you. So, as a new boot going into it, don't feel like you're going to get left in there with the wolves and get eaten alive. You got some pretty cool people coming to your rescue. And once they enter that housing unit, then you can kind of feel that we have the power and we're going to win that.
What's great is I actually was on that thought as well. So I'm glad you were able to get it out, because I was actually going to say that. I was going to say sometimes, because again, we face very unknown times, seriously outnumbered. And I know, especially the stuff that Russ would do in those yards, some of the bravery comes knowing that people have my back, that I could go ahead and do this, knowing that, what motivates me to do my job is knowing that there's going to be support, that they're going to come to my aid if needed. So for those facilities that are understaffed and battling with that limited staffing, that could mess with the confidence that your officers have in the ability to do their job. And what's funny is bravery and confidence are kind of, they're close together. I mean, we're touching on some terms here, but they're close together. But Russ touched on something else before we go to Andy real quick that I want to cross into. And I'll start with Russ because I think Russ kind of went through it. And I want Russ to kind of just step back a little bit. And Russ, you also mentioned control. And yes, that again, I mean, look what it parallels with bravery, because obviously you got to have the courage to make that choice, but definitely having the ability to take control. And it's not about the abuse of power. That's not what I mean by control. What I mean by control is organization, priorities. How important is control to make that scene and to secure that environment, Russ?
Well, yeah, the thing that, always struck me is, you're out there, you're working the yard, you're working the unit. And what happens is you just get to a point where suddenly there's chaos, right? And then you go from, that total complete chaos into rendering and wrangling it back under that control. And that's the real beauty of, seeing, officers go out there and, use that force, use that control. It's not abusive. It's not over the top. It's not unwarranted. And, you've got hundreds of inmates, maybe dozens of officers, and they're still going back in there and they're able to, save the day. They're able to save those inmates. They're able to save those staff members that got trapped in a part of the yard. They're able to, bring back order, bring back balance to the whole facility. And so, you can't underestimate what it takes to do that. Every time I've been out there, putting on the helmet and, getting the 40 millimeter launcher ready to go, it's gut check time, because you know that you're going to go out there into a hostile situation. And it doesn't matter if you've done that 100 times or you've only done it once. Every time, that gut feeling is the same.
And Connie, obviously having control, like a housing unit with 40 people or 50 people or 100 people that don't want that level of control. I mean, how stressful could that be for the officer if they don't know how to kind of deal with that type of environment that they're facing, the resistance, the animosity, and the aggression?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the officer, it puts the officers in a very vulnerable space to begin with, right? So to know that they're in a space having X amount of inmates in that unit, I feel like there's a way that the officer, there's certain presence, and I think a certain way that officer asserts his or herself to sort of gain and maintain that control. And when things start popping up, I think addressing them immediately and not showing that there's some level of fear or apprehension, not like fear of like the inmates are going to do something, but it's just not one of those spaces where doing nothing is okay, right? Because I think that doing nothing also sends another message to the population. And so, I think when you see the officers in the units and they are garnering this sense of control of the unit, I think it says a lot about their personality. I think it says a lot about the boundaries that they've set and established in those units. And there's a certain level, I think, of respect that the inmates may have for that officer because of a way he may have handled something in the past. Like they've seen this officer in action, and his ability to garner control in that unit may be hedged on the way he addressed something in the past. So there's a level of deterrence that is existing that's helping him to also maintain control in the unit, because now they've seen how he or she is able to address situations, and they just may not want to be in that space to have to deal with that officer for any reason. So I think that there's so much power that the officers have, especially if they know how to use it, right? Just because they have that level of authority in the units. And I think when they give up that authority, like, so say for someone's compromised, right? Like then you start seeing things go awry in the unit, right? Because somehow or another, the officer may have lost some footage. But I think that ultimately the officers have a way of maintaining control because they have asserted themselves in a manner that has deterred the inmates from wanting to have any exchange or interaction with that officer or officers.
Yeah, I think we touched on this when it came to that presence of authority and knowing that it's something you gain every day. It is. I mean, you still gain it as your 24th, 25th year. I mean, it's just, there's a finesse to it. But I would like to say, just to comment what you guys are saying, and maybe Andy can finish the thoughts on this here, is that, you can't have control without confidence. That confidence is what comes out that automatically gives the level of control that the officer may need. But if you have an officer that's not confident, not confident in the directives that they're given, not confident in their presence in that unit, that authority that they have, they're not going to get control, because once the control gets challenged by that first inmate, because that's what kind of opens the door to the challenges, when an inmate sees that you're not confident. When an inmate starts to see that you're not confident, they start to challenge, and then how you react to that challenge will give the inmate either gas to keep it going, or hopefully the brake to stop. But confidence and control, Andy, are they running together or separate?
Oh, absolutely together, and I'm dovetailing off of what everyone else is saying, because you guys are all spot on, and Connie stole what I was going to say about respect. So I'll go on to my next thought. Thanks, Connie. Integrity, for control. And, when you walk into that unit, if you have great integrity, when you always do the right thing, and sometimes the right thing's not the favorite thing. And so you're going to have enemies when you do that. But the way you carry yourself, if you walk into a unit with your head held high and your shoulders back, you're going to gain that control just with the way you carry yourself. If you walk in and your head's down and you're not aware of your situation around you, the inmates are going to know they're going to be able to walk all over you, and you're going to lose that control. So definitely having great integrity when you walk into that unit, carry yourself, make sure your uniform looks sharp. Definitely all goes in hand, but definitely respect, and you definitely have to earn the respect from the inmates first before you gain their respect. And I think that's very important for rookie officers to really understand when they walk in there is, don't go in guns blazing, enforce the rules, but, let's not get carried away. Let's have some good respect and integrity.
Yeah. And you touched on integrity. You know what? I don't know if this is going to be a bit controversial when I say this, but it's just my feeling, so bear with me. Integrity is something that you have to come into the profession already having. I don't think integrity can be taught. I know maybe some people may disagree because people could do 180s, but in this profession, I'm not willing to take that chance. Integrity for me is something, believe it or not, I know who I am. And when I feel that something's not right, I have to do something. If I don't do something, something doesn't settle within me, and I'm known that gets me in trouble a lot of the times. It's something that doesn't settle right, and I have to do what's right, even if I'm the only person doing it, like Andy said. But that's a feeling. It's something that I think is in me that I brought into the profession. It brings a level of trusted consistency. I don't want to say it's tough for me because sometimes the consistency is, when I say consistency, maybe there are certain things that you could be predictable with. And again, not everything, but when it comes to trust, that's okay. At the end of the day, I want the inmates to trust me. I'm not looking to trust the inmates, but I want them to trust me. And integrity for me is something where even if I'm not in the room, I know for a fact that people should respect what it is that I left behind. Because in the end, integrity is my word. It stands even when I'm not in the room. And it really does hold on to the character and what it takes to wear this uniform. Because right off the bat, Andy, and you really hit something with me, is you're trusted. You're trusted. So if you don't have integrity coming in, then you're starting your career off in a lie. I mean, integrity to me is something you have to have going in. Russ, what's your thoughts on integrity? I know that you're got to have it, right, Russ?
Well, yeah, there's so many different elements that you have to make a good officer. and to be able to, you know, forward your position within the facility, within your department. You know, integrity is really, you know, fidelity to a standard. And, you know, that standard tends to be, you know, the laws that we uphold and support, the Constitution, and the idea that, you know, people, even if they're inmates, do have rights, and that, you know, and whether you're sworn or not, you still have a duty to ensure that those rights are protected. And so, you know, it's not a little easy thing that just anybody can do, you know, stepping in to fill the shoes of a correctional officer, because you have to be able to, you know, fulfill that fidelity to, you know, what's actually, you know, a higher cause. And that's really the only way that I know to explain it.
No, I think that's powerful and spot on. And Connie, from the civilian side, integrity, trust. I mean, how important is that for you to have integrity in the officers that are supposed to be protecting you as well?
That's absolutely critical, you know, because, you know, in my experience is that we see things, and so we have to have that trust to know that if I come to the officer and say, hey, listen, this is what I just saw happen over there, right? Like that there would be some sort of action, or that like I can trust the officer with that information, and he's going to do the right thing, whatever the right thing might be in that situation. And I feel because we have that partnership where we are working together, that the integrity piece is really critical, because at any given moment, I have to know that, like, if I come to you with whatever, that one, I'm going to be able to talk to you openly. So like we talk about communication and transparency and partnering on the different situations that happen, right? So yes, there are times where the civilian staff is not a part of whatever is going on, whatever the event, the incident, or what have you. But I think there's another time there are other times, particularly my experience has been when we do have situations that go down, that we actually sit and talk directly with custody about what we saw, what happened. And like that has a lot, I think there's such a certain level of integrity that it adds to the document, right? Like when you think of whatever the final report is, that's going to be, you know, handed up. Like those are the things that I think that we can't ignore, because if the trust isn't there, we just, I don't know, it makes for a very tough working relationship when there isn't that trust and there isn't that integrity.
You know, obviously, guys, there's many more. I mean, this list could go on for days, but I do have one more that may not be mentioned as much, especially from custody, because a lot of people, when they look at custody, they kind of see like a hardened approach. You know, some people misread us as just we're aggressors and Neanderthals. But I'm going to tell you something right now, in my experience, and I'm going to balance it with a softer side. You also need empathy, you know, to balance it. You know, I think a lot of the best officers that I've worked with, because we're talking about communication skill, I think that kind of parallels with being empathetic, because empathetic gives you an understanding of that other perspective, which only helps your skill in communication. I mean, actually understanding where people are coming from is a great way to control the dialogue in hopefully a manner that de-escalates as rather kind of adding. And I think having that level of empathy gives you a chance to relate to people, which is a great gift to have in this profession. Now, it's funny because I didn't realize how good of a gift that is until I became, you know, let's say a sergeant, and I was responsible for the actions of my cell extraction team. I was looking for that communicator. You know, I was looking for someone that had the ability to de-escalate, because to me, a good, peaceful ending is when no one's hurt. You know, because as a supervisor, not only are you responsible, I mean, also as an officer too, but more so as a supervisor, I'm responsible for my team, but I'm also responsible for the safe handling of that inmate who's being aggressive. So, you know, having someone that has that ability to communicate from different perspectives, that level of empathy that says, hey, I'm not going to feel sorry for you. I'm not looking for sympathy, but you know, I don't have to wear your shoes, but I know what it's like to be in those shoes. So definitely a gift that if you have partnered with the other qualities we have, guess not something that would stand alone, but definitely something I feel will have tremendous value as a correctional officer. And just to kind of go one more time around, Russ, would you think empathy is a tool that most people realize has value as a correctional officer?
Well, yeah, you have to be able to, you know, put yourself in their shoes to that degree that, you know, you can understand, you know, what the nature of their problem is, what the nature of their grievance is, in order to bring them around to a point of view where they can understand that just because they have a particular viewpoint doesn't mean that you can simply do away with safety or security or policy. Some of them are willing to accept that on that level if you can get them to give you some sort of reciprocal empathy. Sometimes it's not that simple. Sometimes, you know, you're never able to approach that spot because things simply happen too quick and they're already overcome with emotion. But it's always worth it if it's possible to explore that. But it's not always necessarily prudent, and it's not necessarily always possible.
I love that, Russ. It does bring balance. I mean, Connie, obviously, you know, obviously in medical profession, definitely you're going to see the empathy, but I don't think people realize that our officers, a lot of the good officers, do have a tremendous ability to empathize with the population in an effort to de-escalate. And I'm sure you've seen that from time to time, just that tremendous ability to communicate, which comes from an understanding of where that other person is coming from.
So absolutely. I mean, so I think this goes back to Russ's statement about strategy and refining your strategy. And I feel like empathy is also another part of that strategy. That when we're communicating with people with all different level, they're all across the spectrum in corrections, right? And so I think that as we're communicating, sometimes that is the appropriate strategy to de-escalate the situation, right? Sometimes it's a matter of, I just need to talk to this person at their level so that we can complete the mission, whatever that mission is at the time. And I think that we've seen more officers doing that. I mean, walking up and down the halls of Rikers, I've had, you know, there'll be inmates in the hallways carrying on. And there's certain officers that just have a way, you know, they have a way of talking with them, getting them to comply without having to use force. I mean, are there times where it's necessary? Absolutely. But I think that is one of the soft skills that officers develop. And I don't know if it's just over time or if it's intentional through the academy training, but like I've seen it. And maybe it's just the human side of us because we are in the business of people. And so the human side of me says, let me talk to this person in a manner that shows that I understand his or her frustration, or I understand his or her emotion, whatever that is in the moment. And I'm just trying to get them to get out of this space into where I need them to be. And so if it's getting them off the walkway, let me get you to where you need to be. I understand what the situation is. If it's a matter of getting them from mental health or getting them into mental health, right? Like it's all these different things that happen along the way that I feel like I've seen officers in many instances really just talk to the inmate, walking them to where they want them to be. And sometimes that's just what it takes. But, you know, I don't think that we always highlight that it is really a great soft skill that is developed over time.
Right. I 100%. I think the problem here, and maybe Andy could help us elaborate on this, is that people confuse empathy with sympathy. And then when they go to try to say, you know, well, I'm not going to be empathetic, and they explain what it means, I was like, dude, you just explained sympathy. It's two different ball games, you know, and to try to have a show. I actually done multiple shows on this. And when the people contest, again, I can't believe you just told someone to be empathetic. And then when they go to explain it, it's like, yeah, but you're not listening. That has nothing to do with empathy. That's emotion, what you're talking about. That's pure sympathy. And I would never tell anybody to be sympathetic towards an inmate. But I do think that there is effort from us to have to kind of, in order to maintain control and balance, empathy could play a big part of that. And what Connie and Russ were actually saying is spot on. All efforts is to maintain control. And sometimes empathy could be a great way to not match aggression with aggression, but rather say, okay, this person's going up here. Okay, I got that, brother. Let's try to start bringing it down by understanding where you're at and then controlling dialogue down if, like Russ said and you said, if possible. But Andy, do you think that's a big confusion? Empathy and sympathy, and I think people not understanding the differences between the two?
Yeah, I do, and being empathetic towards the population definitely is key, especially when you're starting to move up in the leader, the little leadership roles that you're taking on as a corrections officer. And, something else that was told to me earlier on was treat the inmates as you would want to be treated. And that's not to be mistaken with being soft or to giving them everything that, they're asking for or whatever. Being empathetic means putting yourself in their shoes. So when you deal with the masses, when you walk into a unit of 30 people and you want to gain their respect, let them know, look, I respect the hell out of you guys because I couldn't do it. I don't know what it means to be an inmate. Okay. But I'm putting myself in your shoes to kind of see the other side. And there's inmates too that, when you walk into a unit, they feel safe. And that's that safety and security and that respect factor. But definitely being empathetic because we're dealing with human beings, guys, and a lot of people, they get lost behind the uniform and they start treating the inmates poorly. But just remember that we're dealing with humans, treat them with respect, especially around the holiday times. They're not around their families, and they're locked up. So definitely understanding where they're coming from and treating them like humans is key.
Yeah, and guys, again, our list wasn't all inclusive. We could probably have a whole nother show and discuss other topics, but I did want people to realize that as we were discussing certain ones, there were certain other things that ran parallel. Like right off the bat, when I said sacrifice, automatically I thought dedication and commitment. Determination brought up willpower. So a lot of things do connect and then help build that officer from, someone new just entering the profession as someone that's senior and just is really well balanced in both how they handle situations, yes, but also more importantly, how they handle themselves. And when you have that balance of how you handle yourself and handle those situations, I'm going to tell you something, guys, you become more effective in getting the job done and then also finding value, because there's something great knowing at the end of the day that you're able to step up and answer these concerns. Just that ability to adapt and adjust comes from embracing some of the qualities and characteristics that we've mentioned just now. Maybe we'll discuss it again, but hey, Andy, do you have anything you want to say in closing?
Yeah, again, thanks for having me on. It's been fantastic, and I think, the officers with the seniority, 5-10 years, when you come to work, ask yourself, why am I still coming in? And I think it's because we love it. That's why I still keep coming in, because I love the industry. And if you see a new officer struggling and that officer's at wit's end and they're like, man, I don't even know if I want to be here anymore, be that mentor, take them under your wing, show them the things that have made you who you are today. And I think that's going to, help the industry. It's going to keep us staffed, and it's going to make some, an impression on that young officer's career. But again, thanks for having me, guys. It's been great.
Yeah, I love the mentor thing, by the way. I love that Russ offers it. I think that, being a mentor, because I actually connected to someone on my job that I try to mentor, but in the process, I learned something that even with mentoring, you learn a lot from the mentor as well. It's a trusted relationship that's actually in some cases could be a very close friendship, but very rewarding. And when it comes to mentors, it's funny because mentors actually push people to take risks and chances that they normally wouldn't take. And I think Connie's kind of feeling me on this because I think she knows where I'm going, and you get obsessive with it. Like, I'll be annoying. Come on. But at the end of the day, it's because you see something that they may not see in themselves just yet. And I always tell people, don't wait to be perfect and try. You could try and become perfect, perfect tends to be an excuse most of the time. Hey, Connie, any closing thoughts?
I just want to wish everyone a happy holiday. I really do hope that there is some point where you get to connect with your families. I thank you all for staying on your shifts and doing what you need to do to just keep us all safe. Thank you.
Yeah, and obviously Andy doesn't celebrate any holidays, or does he want to wish anybody happy holiday? There we go.
Yes, that was, once Connie said that, I said, oh man, I forgot. Yes, Merry Christmas to everybody. Again, thanks for working the yards and in the housing units while the holidays are going on. So yes, thank you. Merry Christmas.
Hey, Russ, anything you want to say in closing?
Yeah, Merry Christmas and happy holidays to all. Wherever you have to spend it, make the most of it. Bring that Christmas cheer to every yard, to every unit, to every cell block that you visit. There's no sense in being down in the mouth. There's no sense in being negative just because you're spending Christmas in prison or in jail. So make the most of it, spend it with the family that you've got there, your brothers and sisters in the profession.
I know, obviously, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everyone. I know sometimes, you kind of want to be with your family, but you do have that family behind the wall. And like Russ said, I've had some great time spending Christmas with some crazy individuals, sharing some great memories. And hopefully when your family understands the sacrifices that you have to make, that can give you kind of a level of freedom to enjoy whatever Christmas you have in the places that you happen to be at. But again, it's a tremendous sacrifice. That's why I started with that first. So for those that are out there, working behind the wall in any capacity, thank you for what you do. Thank you for giving us the ability to be home and be with our families and give them the love that we want to give. And one day you'll have your time. Trust me. One day you'll have your time and you'll get to be with your family, and those other new boots will be, covering those shifts. But either way, guys, thought it was a great topic. As always, the show is Tier Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. As always, stay safe.